Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and if you're getting to the point where you're becoming success-oriented about raising money for a new startup, about getting a new product out there to ethically impact the world for the positive, the reason why I started this podcast is really to help people just like you and to bring on real-world entrepreneurs that are in the trenches every single day and every single week, raising money from the crowd, and they're also kicking ass, taking names, and are plowing through obstacles in order to do that. Sometimes you got to go for the big win in your life and really just being a fly on the wall, tuning into some of these mentors and some of these guests that have come on and it's been so incredibly transparent. Sharing what works for them behind the scenes is one of the best ways that you can put yourself in that position to be successful. So I started the podcast in 2015 and you can go and check the archives of this show. We have so many examples of people who have been successful with crowdfunding and also getting a whole new company started and launched right off the ground. That could be, for example, someone who's 16 years old and they're doing e-commerce for the first time. It could be someone who's a seasoned veteran in their career and decide to finally go full-time on their passion and turn their passion into profit at the age of 45 or 65 or whatever it is. And I think that today's episode is no exception. So in today's episode, I spoke with an incredible entrepreneur and founder has been able to launch a Wefunder campaign and able to raise over $489,000 with this campaign, and as well has raised $1.5 million in the past for his startup company for really innovative technology that we'll be talking about on today's podcast episode. So in this episode, we actually went really deep into how to get something launched, how to get funding for your passion, your dream, and how to even do that on a much larger scale. If you want to get funding from venture capitalists, you want to get funding from VCs and angels and some of these other groups, how do you position yourself to be successful and to become success-oriented when it comes to that? So we covered a lot in this episode, and equity crowdfunding is definitely something that's very new and something that I've been trying to cover a lot because similar to the way that crowdfunding got started and how I got started in the industry in 2012, most people think I am crazy when I bring up this idea of equity crowdfunding. So if you really want to understand the ins and outs of what goes into an equity crowdfunding campaign, if you want to raise capital from the crowd, if you want to get an injection of cash into your company and be able to really, I'd say, go past the middleman and go directly to the crowd to allow that to happen, you can check out my Audible book, which you can also get for free, called Equity Crowdfunding Explained. This audiobook is the complete blueprint to launch a regulation, also known as Reg CF, regulation crowdfunding campaign, on websites like Wefunder, Start Engine, Republic, and some of the other major platforms. If you want to check it out, you can get it for free if you get a free trial of Audible. Just go to this link at crowdcrux.com/equity audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/equity audio. But if you're not yet ready to invest in your education, if you're not ready to get access to some of those premium materials when it comes to the right information to move you forward in your life, I also got a great free course out there for you, which you can check out at crowdcrux.com/equity course. In addition, I have a really great Facebook group, which I'll invite you into. If you do join that course, you can go to crowdcrux.com/equity course, enroll, and you can start getting some lessons from me on how to actually raise capital from the crowd and how to use crowdfunding as a part of your brand strategy. I have said enough here. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode and discover how this individual and this entrepreneur was able to raise 6 figures on Wefunder and also $1.5 million when it comes to their startup. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On today's podcast, we have an exceptional entrepreneur and founder who's been able to already raise over $470K on Wefunder for a new way that robotics can actually have fine-tuned hand-eye coordination that's going to totally transform the world. And we are lucky enough to have the founder here, Alexander, on the podcast. Alex, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Salvador.
Definitely, man. Maybe you could fill in some gaps in that introduction and kind of share with the listeners a bit about you and your past and also this new project you're working on.
Sure thing, absolutely. So when I like to talk to people, I like to bring up 3 aspects of my background in terms of what I've done in the past and why I'm perfectly suited for this current company. So my running joke is that I got my master's in robotics just to be able to call myself a robot master from Carnegie Mellon, where I get my teeth in autonomous vehicles. From there, my advisor then I did other things, but then my advisor called me back to work on sending a robot to the moon. So you may have heard recently about the Astrobotic and how they attempted to do a moon launch. Fortunately, they had a oxidizer rupture, which precluded their ability to actually land on the moon, but they were able to make sure all their instrumentation was working. So Red and I and a few others founded that company a very long time ago now, and it's now continued to be successful. But it's where I like to say I got my MBA of hard knocks. Um,
Awesome. Congratulations on that
lastly,
one. Yeah.
oh, thank you. It's been a journey. And then lastly, I spent the last 9 years before I started this company at Lockheed Martin, where I really focused on bringing technologies from proof of concept to proof of value. But first, learning how to build and deploy complex systems, and where I learned how you get to build complex systems, you have to start the simple system and add complexity. And
Mm,
finally, as I mentioned, a lot of my role was corporate wide. It was bringing technologies from the labs to production use in robotics, process optimization, and augmented reality. So that's the short version of my background. Um, Here at L5, what we're trying to do is radically increase productivity worldwide. And the way we're doing that is writing software that allows off-the-shelf hardware and equipment, such as robot arms and so forth, be able to have the same hand-eye coordination we take for granted as humans, allowing robots to grab and do activities starting with strawberry harvesting.
super cool.
So with that, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, super cool, man. Do you view yourself as a engineer, a technologist, an entrepreneur? How would you label yourself?
Well, I started as a technologist, but these days, my team kind of yells at me if I do too much coding. So I would say my main focus these days has been on the entrepreneurship side, given that this is now not my first rodeo anymore.
So you kind of developed first as inventing new cool technology, and then it sounds like you had to kind of, I guess, grow into more of the entrepreneur shoes when it comes to that.
Yeah, so absolutely. But I will make the note that I always knew that this was the company I wanted to found since a very young age. My original goal when creating this company was about space. So, given my background and interest in space, I knew that for us as a civilization to get off this planet, we needed to not have to rely on astronaut time because astronaut time is very expensive. To give you context, the going rate for on the International Space Station for astronaut time is over 150,000 an hour. And
Wow.
so if we were going to realistically do anything interesting in space, we needed ways to have the same capability, but at a fraction of the cost.
Got it. Got it. And you're also kind of, breaking into this new area, which is equity crowdfunding, right? So you've had a couple of different successes under your belt up until this point in time. What made you choose to launch a campaign on Wefunder?
Well, quite frankly, the reason why I was doing it is so that I could democratize access. So, from my perspective, I'm not really looking for any specific number of how much I raise on WeFunder. It's more to get people beyond just the venture capital firms to be part of this. And in particular, I wanted people like my uncle to be able to invest, who is not an accredited investor and would have no chance of being part of this otherwise.
And why is that important to you?
Well, quite frankly, the only way we as a society will have any realistic stability is if we could strengthen our middle class. It's not about making the rich people richer. It's not about having the poor people just scrape by. It's about having a strong middle class where the vast majority, if not everyone, have stability to have all their basic needs met and
Mhm.
enough resources to do the occasional fun thing. And if we could do that well, all of a sudden the world becomes a better place because less people see the need to do wars and to take from others because well, let's put it this way, if you're fat and happy, you don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, very true. Looking at why some people invest just on your page here, some people say they really value the product that you're developing. Other people saying the automation in agricultural world is the future. And some people look like they are really excited as well about some of the technology and the goals that you have. So it sounds like people are kind of getting involved for a couple of different reasons here, right? When it comes to
Well,
this.
absolutely. So here we're at the World Ag Expo this week. And so this is an event that happens annually in Tulare, California. which is somewhere between Bakersfield and Fresno, so dead middle of California, if you will. And what they do here is it's the largest ag expo where they show tons of farming equipment. They show tons of lots of vendors for farmers in general, everything from I saw a lubricant stand to, of course, John Deere tractors. And what people have been saying as they come by to see our demonstration is just like, this is needed. Because one of the biggest problems in ag is they cannot find enough labor to meet their needs. So much so that over 40% of the workers, quoting another CEO, is immigrant workers that are coming out oftentimes from out of this country on H-2A visas just to meet our needs. And the problem is that this workforce is declining. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find these H-2A visas because, for example, in Mexico, the birth rate is declining, so there's less need for this. If you go even further than that, the people that are here, the average age is increasing. So it used to be like 35 years would be the average migrant worker age, but it's now increased to 45, and it just keeps it going higher. And quite frankly, this is not a young man's job.
So the robotics is going to help to alleviate that problem, it sounds like, and really help solve that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you got such an incredibly, big vision. And I think a lot of beginning entrepreneurs, when they might listen to this or hear you talk, it's like, gosh, this guy is doing such big things, right? Do you have any thoughts when it comes to kind of getting people involved in that vision? Like you've already raised 1.5 million from what I see here. Do you have any thoughts on advice for other entrepreneurs that are looking to get capital in the door in the same way that you have? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm going to give advice to two different groups. The first group is people that have not made the journey yet or jumped in. So the first thing I'm going to say is that being an entrepreneur is tough. It is. If you ask any founder that's had any kind of experience with more than just a trivial amount, it is probably the toughest thing you could do. And I don't know, you do not go in this for the wrong reasons. If you're going this for just because you want to have the title of entrepreneur, you want to be the title of founder, or you hope to make $1 billion, that's the wrong reason to get in. Now, it would be nice to make $1 billion. I'm hoping to do so, but you have to have a reason that is so passionate to you. It's so telling to you that you're willing to put up with the sleepless nights, the worries about not making payroll, the maybe going on ramen for a month, or whatever is necessary to make things happen, because that's what it's going to take. It's not an easy journey, and you have to be someone with an extremely thick skin. Just for context, when you're raising money, you're going to hear 99, maybe 999 no's for every yes that you get. And if you're not able to tolerate that kind of constant negativity and be able to break through, you're not going to be successful.
So it sounds like developing sort of a grit and like a resilience is definitely needed to get through some of those days, right? When it comes to doing that.
That's exactly right. And there's one of these jokes when I talk to other entrepreneurs, they say, like, for example, one of the best training to be an entrepreneur is to be a telemarketer, where you're constantly being told no when you're making phone calls.
I can believe that.
Because if you're not willing and able to get basically slammed in the face 99.9% of the time, there's no way you're going to be able to get fundraising, get customers, or anything else. The next kind of skill that I would kind of throw out is you really need to work on your storytelling. When I introduce myself at this point, I've gotten to the point where I'm able to tell these stories, land jokes, even though I didn't give you a chance to laugh out loud too much. But you have to be able to elicit an emotional response from folks, because it's not just about the numbers. Especially on an early stage company, they're really investing in you as a person. And they have to believe that and trust that you're going to find a way to get through things no matter what. And so what you want to be able to do is portray and show yourself as someone that, one, that is trustworthy, and two, is going to be able to engage and excite customers, and later on employees, and later on growing the business to other people as well.
I mean, to add to that, you have developed an exceptional team, right? When it comes to this startup, you have a great software engineer, robotics researchers, operations manager. You have a ton of people that are on your side as well to help you make that pitch as well. It sounds like.
Well, absolutely. This is one of the things I drew on, and this is what I do recommend. If you have not made the leap yet, it's not just about dollars and cents that you have as capital. You want to be able to pull off from your network. And it's really important that the social capital be there as well. I've been very fortunate in my career to have been around some amazing top flight, world class individuals. Everyone from, well, one of my investors is if you look at my investor base, I have everyone from former astronaut to uh, a Harvard educated lawyer to PhDs from machine learning, AI, you name it. And those people did not come just because they thought I was cool one day. Many of these people have known me for 20 years or more. And the key in all that is staying in touch, knowing who they are and they knowing you, and quite frankly, developing a set of trust between us in terms of what you can and can't do.
I think that's very well said, and the fact that you can surround yourself with the right people and maintain those relationships is challenging, but clearly it's something that pays off in the long run. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. How would you say doing this style of raise publicly, regulation crowdfunding on Wefunder, how does that compare to more of the traditional way of raising money in your experience?
Well, it's a little bit different, right? So when you're raising money from capital markets, and they're kind of symbiotic, but investors that are, say, a venture capital firm, they really have to follow their thesis, right? So when they're trying to evaluate a opportunity, they first, like step one is, does it fit their thesis or not? If it doesn't fit their thesis, it's not going to happen. The next thing that they care about is this going to be a big enough market that if this person succeeds, it's worth the risk? And usually that means that it needs to be a $10 billion opportunity or larger. If it's not, then they don't even want to consider it at all. Because their math, and this is just VC math in general, is that if they have a portfolio of 100 companies, just for argument's sake, though realistically it's usually much smaller, say like 10, they need one of those companies to make enough money that not only does it pay back the entire fund, but makes a nice profit. And so what that means from a realistic standpoint is that if there's 100 companies, that company, they have the 100x their investment or more.
Got it. So kind of understanding and putting yourself in the shoes of the other person seems like that's been a very useful strategy for you, right? And kind of understanding what VCs are looking for. And you mentioned something around their thesis. I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Well, all right. So, and I'm going to expand to the crowdfunding a little bit, but just on the VC standpoint, what they have is you have to remember that VCs themselves raise money. So they don't have the money themselves. They're not personally wealthy. They're not angel investors per se. They are quite literally smart people that have oftentimes gone to business school, but oftentimes not. And what their job has been is to learn how to evaluate companies and make smart investment decisions. And what they'll do is they'll go to what are called limited partners, which are individual angel investors or family offices or people that are extremely wealthy that as part of their portfolio want to do some amount of venture backing. And so they'll reach out to a large group of people and create what's called a fund. And these funds will range from 10 million for a smallish one to hundreds of millions for some of the larger VC firms. And in these funds, when they invest, they say that, and they go to their LPs, they say, look, we're going to invest in this category. So, for example, some will invest in only AI, another will invest in uh, uh, agriculture, another one would invest in space, or maybe they do women-based founders, or you name it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a specific thesis. They say, look, I believe that I'll be able to, better than most people, pick a winner in this category, and therefore you should give me money to invest in companies to do so.
So they kind of have a pitch that they're making to their investors, right? And then from that, they're raising the capital, which then they're going to allocate to you if you fit into their thesis, right?
Exactly right. And a lot of times, depending on the VC, they have long track records. Like, so for example, the big ones like Sequoia and Anderson Horowitz or A16Z, to a few other things, they've been doing this for decades, where they've consistently shown good returns for the investors, and therefore they keep on making money by kind of fitting a specific mathematical thesis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I love that, man. And the fact that you're being transparent and sharing that's going to help so many people, I think, listening to this show, just trying to get a sense of how the capital markets work. So I super appreciate that.
Yeah, and this is much different from a crowdfunding perspective. In crowdfunding, what people are fundamentally looking for is this something cool? Do I want to be part of it? And do I think there's a chance that's going to make money? And absolutely, you have to be able to show that you have a strong plan for your business, the strong plan for growth, and how it's all going to work. But all investing, whether it's for crowdfunding, whether it's for VC, whether it's for your friends and family, whether it's for angels, for anything, it's all about trust. People will not give you money unless they have some belief or some trust that you're going to be able to come through or deliver for them. And so, because they're not going to, most people, especially on, say, a crowdfunding platform, are not going to know you very well, right? They're going to have known you for maybe a week or two before they make an investment. Sometimes they'll make an investment on the spot, but you have to have ways of creating trust for the investors. The same thing's true with VCs. My first institutional investor, Connie Bowen, the reason why she invested was that she knew me for a year ahead of the investment. I'd been working with her and talking with her for a very long time, and we had built up a relationship that way.
It kind of sounds like that's your superpower, as well as maintaining and building these relationships throughout your career.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely necessary. If you're not able to build up and hold relationships, you're probably not the right person to be a CEO. Because when I talk to other founders, what I say is, as CEO, you only really have 3 jobs that you absolutely have to do right. The first job is you have to be able to set and cast a vision. So every company needs its North Star. And even though a necessity of a business is that you're profitable, no business exists without a reason, whether it be the investor force, the founder creating it, or because that they believe in a certain thing needs to happen in this world, or whatever it is, but there's always a why. And your job as the founder is to articulate that why and cast where that company is going and what the milestones are to achieve that. That's your first and most important job. Your second most important job is getting the people to make that vision a reality. So it's finding, it's keeping, it's inspiring so that they work their best possible for the people. And that's your second most important job, is making and setting that culture in your company that attracts and makes people want to go after those missions and goals that you set out. And then the last and final job is getting the resources. Yes, sometimes it's cash, but oftentimes that might be expertise, it might be partnerships, it might be whatever that you need to support the people to execute the vision. And as long as you do those 3 things right over and over again, you're well suited as a CEO. And most importantly, as you alluded to, it's all about building and maintaining relationships.
I love that. And it sounds like, you starting off as a technologist and now becoming more of a leader, right? You've been able to even magnify the impact that you're having, and specifically as well, I assume, with this company as well. So congratulations on that. Out of curiosity,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, out of curiosity, man, when you went live with this, you started to get people investing, and you're now at over 400K. What did it feel like to be able to wake up and to see that publicly?
Well, a couple of things that I just want to mention, and this is really important for all people that are raising crowdfunding platforms, especially Wefunder. There's going to be 2 numbers you care about. One number is how much is being raised through the crowdfunding campaign, and there's going to be what you raise kind of in conjunction on other methodologies. So I can't go into details publicly on the terms of my note outside of Wefunder, and by the way, there are a bunch of SEC rules that you need to follow as a being on the platform, which I'll share in a bit. But a large chunk of the money that has been raised so far on my raise has been outside of the platform that I've individually talked with individuals brought in on similar terms. So on every single campaign, there's usually like a little icon that's like an I information. They give you the top line number, but then they'll break it down on how many were raised on the platform versus not. And so the amount that I've raised is substantially less than 400 and something on platform. And when you look at the numbers, it is really exciting when you start seeing like every campaign goes through kind of what I'll call 3 steps. The very first step is where you first set up the campaign in the first place and get your initial group of people to invest. And so these first people almost always has to come from your social networks. So this is kind of what they call priming the pump. If you're not able to raise at least say 50,000 just from your social networks, you're not going to get much attention from these platforms because what they're looking for is, do you have enough of a network and can you tell enough of a story that you're like, do your friends trust you basically? If they do, then you're great. You're going to be in a well-positioned step. The next step is that once you hit that 50K threshold, that's when they'll start doing some amount of advertising. In our case, that was our first time at the email blast out. And at that point, it's really exciting to see how people respond. If you have a good and compelling story, you're going to get a lot of money relatively very fast. I think, well, I'm still amazed that we probably got between 40 to 50K within that first week of the email.
Wow.
Which is unusual. So if you don't get that much, don't feel bad. But the idea here is that when you have a truly compelling story and you tell it well, all of a sudden you start getting immediate traction just from their minimal marketing. And so that takes you for a very large chunk of time. But then the last step, and this is unfortunate from what I've been gathering from multiple founders, is that the third step is well called pay to play, where you're actively marketing your company on different advertising channels and different methodologies, which now then allows you to take it to the next step.
And when it comes to that last step, which you're now, it sounds like, engaged in, have you found anything so far to work well for you, or that you've noticed with other campaigns? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I think one of the things that I was given as a piece of advice that I'd follow is that you're going to get, especially when you first start getting any type of traction on these Wefunder campaigns, there's going to be everyone and their mother is going to offer to help you with raising your crowdfunding campaign. My inbox even now, I still get probably a dozen emails per day with someone that wants to help me raise my fundraising campaign. And what I've learned from all this is that you have to pick and choose where you're going to spend your time, how you're going to do stuff. But most importantly, you need to ask for referrals. So the idea here is that anyone that talks to you and says that, hey, we're going to be willing and able to help you with this, if they don't have a specific person they worked with before that has had a positive response and is willing to talk to you about them, then they're probably not worth their time.
Well said. Well said.
And so my recommendation always is to ask, hey, who else did you work with? How did it turn out for them? And would you be able for me to talk to them?
Yeah, I love that. And I think it makes a lot of sense, asking for referrals and making sure you're working with legitimate people, right, when it comes to that.
Exactly.
So to kind of change the topic a tiny bit to more of L5 automation here. So you guys are still live, from what I understand, with the campaign. It looks like you're going pretty strong when it comes to this. What are sort of one or two of the items you'd like to share with the audience here? Are you offering more favorable terms, or why should they go and check out more about your campaign here?
Well, so my recommendation is, if you believe that the future is robotics and software, this is the company you want to be part of, because we have been able to show, compared to every other company, how you could truly master two-arm coordination for tasks in agriculture. Unlike other robotics companies that have tried the strawberry problem in particular, we have an approach that works even during peak production when farmers need it most. Uh, and this kind of goes into one of our core strengths is really trying to understand what the customer needs and doing the minimum product possible for that purposes. When we developed our system, we really aimed for how do we meet the customer needs on their terms. A lot of robotics companies have required the customers to radically change their environment. You see this not just in strawberries, but you see this in orchards and so forth, where they're saying, "Look, pack uh, your your trees a certain way, change your farm operations just to enable robotic automation." And that'd be great if the farmers could actually trust that you will deliver. But the reality is that I don't care how good you are as a robotics company, you are going to fail the first couple times that you're out. And for you, it's not a big deal for you to fail. Like, all right, then I didn't make it, and worst case, I lose the customer. But especially in agriculture, if you screw up and they were counting on you, and now they can't deliver, they've lost a crop.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
and that's huge for them because all of a sudden, for a lot of especially smaller farmers, they're only one crop away from bankruptcy or like losing their business. They can maybe sustain one bad year or two bad years, but too many bad things in a row, they're gone. And that's why even though they are extremely innovative and want to reach towards the future and will do so when they could trust it, they absolutely have to have trust that you're going to deliver and do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in this interview, that's one of your strong suits, right? When it comes to building trust and these relationships. And you guys have a team that has incredibly deep experience, right? When it comes to these startups and robotics and software. So I'm really excited to see what happens here in the future. And you're obviously on a massive trend, right? As well, when it comes to robotics. Where can people go, first of all, to learn more about your campaign and check out some of the work you're doing here?
Yeah, so if you guys go to the Wefunder campaign, it says wefunder.com/L5automation. That's where our campaign is running now. You'll be able to see a little bit about the background of story, hear a video from me and so forth, but more importantly, be able to be part of itself. As I said, I really was about democratic access, so you can literally join for $100 and be part of my campaign. So there's really no minimum threshold. There are rewards at different levels going up, but really the focus here is getting you to be part of what I'm hoping will be the next $1 trillion business.
I think as well, just to add to that, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, it's so great to actually learn the game by being on the sidelines, right? And by investing or checking it out. It's kind of like you get to watch the football game, right? And see how the pros are playing it. So I think it's also really cool to be able to see your updates and all the kind of stuff that you guys are doing as a company.
Yeah, and exactly. That's just to add to that, right? One of the levels that I do is that if you invest, well, I don't know if I could say all the terms, but let's just say it's like $500 or more. One of the perks that I'm offering is to be part of this journey. And this is what I do in general, and this helps build trust, is when you give monthly updates on what your company's doing, both good and bad, so that people understand exactly where you are. And so they understand where things are going. One of the worst things as an investor is that you give money to someone and then you don't hear from them until 2 years later, and that they're just folding up the company.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
Cringe. Cringe.
And so what you want to be able to do, and what I've done and continue to do, is give regular updates. So getting to at some minimal threshold allows you to hear the journey as it proceeds and unfolds.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing so much great information. I have one final question for you, and we can end on that note. You can either end with a quote that you like, some advice that you've gotten in the past throughout your career, or a final tip about crowdfunding, or just some encouragement for other founders and entrepreneurs in the audience, and we can end on that note.
Well, the number one piece of advice that I've tried to live is from my dad. And he basically made the point that he had heard was, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And one of the tricks and the keys to life is finding stuff that you're passionate about and you want to realize, because when you're doing something that truly resonates with the deepest parts of your soul, it gives you encouragement to get up every single day and keep pushing and keep making things happen day in and day out. And so my recommendation is find that for yourself, wherever you are, whether you're an entrepreneur or otherwise, and kind of feed that dream and make it work. Well, of course, making sure you take care of responsibilities as well, but really trying to push that for yourself and for those around you.
Great message, Alex. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'll be sure to link everything up in the show notes. And good luck with your remaining days when it comes to your raise here. And good luck with your remaining days when it comes to your raise here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name, again, is Salvador Briggman, also known as Sal. And I hope that at this point in the episode, not only do you understand that this is possible and that there's a path, a blueprint which you can follow in order to be successful when it comes to crowdfunding, but also that so many other entrepreneurs, so many other creative types, designers, innovators, engineers have done this before you. And all you got to do is follow in their footsteps. And that's really what I've designed this podcast to do. That's what I love to do as well on my YouTube channel. You can search me, my name's Salvador Briggman on YouTube. It will bring up my YouTube channel. That's what I've loved to do with all of my books and my training and my courses, is I try to just show you the path that you can very easily follow that's already been treaded before you. Right? And sometimes when you're going out there and you're trying to hike a mountain, it can be so hard to do that if there isn't a trail in which you can follow. So by tuning in every single week, you're surrounding yourself with the greats. You're surrounding yourself with success stories when it comes to crowdfunding. You're getting yourself hungry and excited, but you're also getting access to the high quality information which you can use to move your life and your business forward. And I'm really here to help you do that in a much faster way. Now, some of you have gotten to the point where you're like, you know what, Sal, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to make progress in this area of my life. I'm not happy with where I am currently, and I know that I can do it, but I just need a guide. I want to go on this grand trek. I want to go hike this mountain in the way that you say, but I just need a little bit of help. I need a guide who can show me the path and show me the way. So once I started to kind of get inquiries about that, I thought a lot about it, and I realized that one of the ways that I want to help my community was to make myself accessible to the community through my individual one-on-one coaching calls. These are basically intensive coaching calls where we go through the A to Z strategy of how to raise capital for your specific niche, for your specific product, for your specific company, and also some of the tactics, tools, resources that you might not know about that you can apply to be wildly successful with your campaign. There's so many, different types of products and services and markets out there that can be quite daunting to apply generic advice to your campaign. And what I do with these individual intensive coaching calls is that I share with you exactly what is going to work for your product, your category, and also the platform in which you are launching. So whether you're in the idea stage or you're a little bit further along as well and you're ready to launch in the next couple of weeks or even the next couple of months, this is a great option for you to really invest in the foundation of a strong campaign that can not only get you the funding you need, but also the traction, can get you the feedback, and also can build a media firestorm around your brand and really have this be something much bigger than you ever imagined possible. So if you want to check that out, go to the link I'm about to mention. Fill out the form, tell me more about you, about what you're passionate about, what you're trying to accomplish, and that way we can get our call scheduled ASAP. Go and do this right now at this link, crowdcrux.com/coaching. That's crowdcrux.com/coaching. crowdcrux.com/coaching will take you there. And if you're ready for a bigger, brighter, stronger, more rich, and more full future, I promise you're going to walk out of that coaching call with a tremendous sense of confidence, but also with all the tactics and the know-how to go out there and to crush it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Go and check out some of my other free podcasts and my free YouTube videos and blog articles on CrowdCrux. Would love to have you also give us a positive rating and review. If you did enjoy this specific episode, it definitely helps out the show. But thank you so much, and I will see you next week.